you can maybe let us know maybe one main reason why investors should invest in consumer loans from Lithuania with Neofinance.
First reason is that it's very safe. Talking about the all risks which may arise for the investor. It's safe regarding the storing the money, the investing, how the platform is regulated, what will happen if the platform would fail, and many things. All things are protected in our case. Second, of course, for investors, the investment return also is very important. Investors can expect to earn about 10-11% of actually return before taxes.
Welcome back to another P2P talk. Today I'll be talking to Evaldas Remeikis from Neofinance, and in today's discussion you will learn more about the differences between regulated and unregulated platforms and how this impacts your P2P portfolio. So welcome to the interview, Evaldas.
Hello, Jakub. Nice to be with you today.
Well, thanks for joining. So let's start with a short introduction of Neofinance, and maybe you can also explain to us what is your role at Neofinance.
I am a founder of Neofinance. It was established in 2014, but we have started operations in December 2015. So it means we had actually almost 2 years. It's 11 months, 1 year and 11 months to prepare for our operations in our country and to obtain all needed licenses at that time. So we now are operating more than 5 years in the Lithuanian market. Investors are from all over the Europe, so everybody can invest into Lithuanian borrowers, and we have issued 69 million euros in our market, and we are leading P2P platform in our country. I'm the founder, and I am the chair of the board. So we had a board in our company. It's actually required by law, as we are a financial institution, licensed financial institution. So we are required by law to form a board of directors. So I'm the chairman of the board. It means actually that I am not really involved in everyday's operations. So more we are, let's say, having meetings every month with our operating team, CEO, and other team members, and trying to help them to solve interesting issues, to discuss strategy and similar things and responsibilities of the board.
Well, thanks for the very extensive introduction. So the P2P lending market is getting more and more regulated. We can see a lot of P2P marketplaces are applying for the financial brokerage license in Latvia. However, you are based in Lithuania and you are originating consumer loans in Lithuania, and you always communicate to the investors that you have all the required licenses in order to lend money, but also to provide P2P lending services, right? So can you maybe explain to us what it means to the investors to be a regulated platform from your point of view?
Actually, it's not so common to face for the investors in Europe to face regulated platforms of P2P consumer lending. As far as I know, only 2 countries, it's UK and Lithuania, has regulation implemented for P2P consumer lending platforms to regulate and supervise these platforms. In our case, we are, let's say, even more regulated, not only as P2P consumer lending platform, which regulates how the platform should, let's say, perform business, what are investors' rights, how to avoid conflict of interest, and many things. But we are also electronic money institution. And this is very safe for investors to know that actually the funds which are kept at investors' accounts are really safe because it is supervised by the regulator. Maybe some investors remember the scandal in 2016 in Sweden, Trust Buddy platform, where actually the platform was displaying at the screen that investors have some money into their accounts, but later actually it was discovered that there was the money which was shown displayed at the account of investors, that money was gone. Actually, it was used for the company purposes. Mm-hmm. So what has happened that the platform actually used investors' money for their operations, and eventually the platform has failed, and all this situation was revealed. So electronic money institution license actually is a guarant for investors that the money they transfer to the platform are really supervised by the regulator, and actually it's safe. It cannot be used for the platform purposes. And that is very important in my point of view. And as I already mentioned, in 2014, when we decided to establish a platform, in the very beginning, we understood that it's the key thing for the platform to guarantee for investors that the funds are kept safe into their accounts. So we are very proud that we are maybe one of a few platforms in Europe which also has electronic money institution license, which means very tough regulation for us. But from other side, it builds a trust for our investors regarding their funds. Mm-hmm. And one more license is that we also act as the consumer credit provider ourselves. So we also should have a license from our regulator also to grant to issue consumer credit by ourselves, like Neo Finance. And we need it for the liquidity reasons, and sometimes we need to faster to close the loans, not to wait too long for the borrowers to be financed. So actually we have, let's say, 3 licenses in Lithuania to do that business.
Yeah. Well, that's obviously quite an important point that you brought up, right? That investors invest on platforms where they see numbers on the dashboard where it says, okay, this is your available balance. But actually, if you try to withdraw that amount, it's not going to work, right? And I've seen it the last couple of months or years. Platforms have a certain clause in their terms and conditions oh, your funds are stored at separated bank accounts and we are not using it in our balance sheets, right? However, as we have seen last year with some of the P2P lending scams, not all of the platforms obeyed this term, and yeah, investors ended up losing money, and platforms, some vanished, some are still here. However, recovering some of the funds is going to be quite tricky. So maybe can you explain how is the process when, let's say, me myself as an investor invest money on Neo Finance? Can you explain the setup behind it, how it works? Because I am aware that I get a dedicated IBAN account number, but maybe you can explain a little bit more of the transfer of funds and how it goes from an investor all the way to the borrower, maybe.
Yes, as you mentioned, what's the main difference at Neo Finance? That actually we open for the investors and for you IBAN account. The same account, the same logic and the same account with the same rules when comparing to the bank account you open at any European bank. So we have so-called big number, bank international code. This is dedicated for Neo Finance. So when you decide to invest, first thing we do, we open IBAN account for you under your name. And that is extremely important. And if some investors would like to distinguish which platform actually has electronic money institution license, which don't has, very simple test you can do. If you transfer the money for the platform to your own account opened at the platform, so actually you are transferring money from one your account to another your account at Neo Finance, for example. So you are transferring money for yourself, not for the platform. And this is the main difference. What does it mean? The account opened at Neo Finance actually it's the same account as in the bank, and the money are kept, in our case, in Central Lithuanian Bank. And is it completely, let's say we distinguish, we separate that money from the company's account. So it's completely different accounts, and these money are stored at Lithuanian Central Bank account. And this is also very important, talking about the safety of your money, that we do not even store money at commercial bank account. We store it at the central bank account, which cannot fail in any way. Because if central bank will fail, it means that the economic collapse will happen also to the country itself, yeah. Right? So, your money are kept at central bank account. It's under your name, but it's kept in one pool account by the electronic money institution regulation, which is, you know, in Europe we have electronic money institution directive. So it's for all countries, and what is also important, that actually when you see the money at your account and we display it for you as the investor, it means that it's so-called mirroring principle, that the same money which we show for you are actually kept into a separated bank account. And it's also very important to mention that it's not we are just, let's say, claiming it to the investors. It's actually, it's supervised by the regulation institution, and they check time by time. They are checking it every quarter. Do the, let's say, electronic money corresponds to real money at the central bank. It should be the same amount, and we are doing reports for supervision institution. In our case, it's the same Lithuanian central bank, and also they can come and inspect it in any day. Yeah. So of course it increased the, let's say, safety of your funds by many times comparing to unregulated platforms. And when you invest into some loan, so how it is performing, that the amount is taken from your account, and that funds are being transferred to the borrower's account. And the borrowers, in our case, they open at Neofinance the same accounts, IBAN accounts, as the investors. So the funds are moving from investor's account to the borrower's account. And when borrower pays the monthly installment, the money goes to the investor's account, to many investors' accounts. So we, let's say, distribute all the money to investors' account. And it's also extremely important in case, for example, if Neofinance fails, that means that nobody could claim for your money because it's your money. And even when the loans are being returned, they'll go straight to investors' accounts, and nobody could claim, no government institution, no creditors, that okay, the returning money, it's should be covered for some company debts or similar things. It belongs to investors and no other way. It's by law, by electronic money institution law, and by electronic money law, which is, as I mentioned, European directive.
Mm-hmm. That's quite interesting. So basically, there is no money flow that goes through a Neofinance between investor, Neofinance, and borrower, but there is, like, the Neofinance is completely on the side, and then you have just the investors and borrower where the money flows, right? The only flow that goes to Neofinance is for the fees, I assume, right?
Yes, mm-hmm. yes. We just, our algorithms just instruct, for example, please take the amount from the borrower and distribute it to this list of investors who has invested into that specific loan. So actually we instruct and the money are taken from borrower accounts and being distributed to different investors straight into their IBAN accounts under investor's name. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And if in the worst case scenario where Neofinance would default and the borrower are still repaying the debt, who is going to administrate the claims? Is there going to be like a law firm dealing with it, or is it do you have some kind of automated system for that?
As we are a regulated platform, so we have the requirement, which is described in a law, to have so-called business continuity plan. And in that plan, we should describe all the case. If some risk materializes, what will happen? How we are going to let's say, administrate the platform. Who will administrate the platform? I don't maybe tell because it's a quite long story, but every investor can open neofinance.com to find business continuity plan. It's 32 pages, as I remember, and everybody can read. And also we describe how the funds flow from investor to the borrower and from the borrower to investors. This cash flow also is described, and also what will happen if we will face some insolvency problem, how we should act as the platform, the board, also what will be responsibility of the board, what is the responsibility of CEO, and yeah, it's quite many pages regarding that. And also we should renew this business continuity plan by our regulation every year.
It's quite important also that you bring this up, that investors should also read terms and conditions and documents like this one, because it ultimately gives them or the information about their rights, right? And what could happen in the worst case scenarios. And I keep saying to investors, and even to new investors, keep reading the terms and conditions so you're fully aware of the risks that come with P2P lending, right? With every single platform. So thank you for bringing this up. I am also aware that some platforms in Lithuania, they work with payment providers, like for instance Paysera, which I think have also like a electronic money institution license. Do you know if the setup is very similar to yours? Do they also store investors' funds at the Bank of Lithuania, or is it different?
I cannot comment how the money is stored at this electronic money institution, Paysera, because to store the money at Lithuanian Central Bank is not obligatory. And every electronic money institution actually in Lithuania can choose the way how they save or hold or store the money of investors and borrowers. In our case, we store 99% of investor money, and 1% is stored at commercial bank. It's for liquidity reasons how we transfer, because we also having electronic money institution license, we can also do the payments. So we also as a payment provider, we can make payments to, and even our Lithuanian investors, they can make payments for as in any bank. Of course, we are not focused on that, but 1% is at commercial banks. So I don't know how other electronic money institutions how they decide to handle this.
But regardless of in which bank the funds are stored, the uninvested capital from the investors, which is now stored in their IBAN accounts, it also is insured by the deposit protection scheme of the European Union. Is that correct?
It's a very difficult question. It's actually this question lies at European Commission at the moment, because it's done differently in different European countries. France, it's under deposit scheme. Lithuania, it's under question. But for investors, just to understand, it's not actually important that this money are secured by national deposit scheme, because this money is not used at all. So that money cannot disappear. It's only one way how it can disappear, that the bank, commercial bank, goes bankrupt. In that case, it's some, it's such a question can be raised. But in our case, as the money are stored at central bank, it's no chance to lose the money. And it's not even important, is it under deposit scheme or not, because these money are not used in any way. It's just stored and can be taken at any time. And what's the difference comparing to the banks? For example, let's imagine some scenario that all investors and all borrowers decide the same minute to withdraw all the cash from Neofinance. That means that, yes, and all this money is lying at the central bank account, and everybody will get the money immediately because this money corresponds 100% to electronic money. And the banks, they work differently. In the bank, if everybody will claim to withdraw all the money, the bank will go bankrupt because bank is using that money for loans, for funding, and for different things. So it's the main difference between bank and electronic money institution, that bank use customers' money, electronic money institutions cannot use the money. Of course, there is some cases when electronic money institution can invest customers' money into very safe and liquid instruments. For example, government bonds to buy. The law allows to do that. We are not doing it at Neo Finance, but some electronic money institution invest. But you should also to have all the plan to have the plan how you will sell, how are you investing, and how fast will you sell the funds if they are needed, and so on. And this is also regulated by central bank, by supervising institution. So it's possible, but the main difference that the bank can use your funds and electronic money institutions cannot. So it's the question about the insurance guarantee fund, or how to call deposit fund, how to call it. It's not actually important in our case.
Mm-hmm. That's quite interesting. I didn't know that. Quite valuable actually. That electronic money institutions, they are not able to use that money from depositors. All right. So let's jump to the second license that you have, the crowdfunding license in Lithuania. So can you elaborate a little bit more of how you obtain the license and what are the requirements to keep it?
It's called not crowdfunding license. It's called mutual funding platform license, or P2P, consumer lending platform. Because crowdfunding in Lithuania is another law. It's for SMEs loans, and it's a completely different law. So consumer credits are regulated regulated by a law which is called consumer credit regulation. So, and in this law, consumer credit law, we have all the requirements described regarding the platforms, how the platforms should operate, how investors' rights are protected, who can invest, how much money you can invest into one loan, for example. In Lithuania, we have 500 euros to invest into one loan. It's the limited amount to invest in one loan. And the law was enforced in 2016 in February. So we were the first platform which obtained the license in Lithuania, and it has happened in April 2016. After 2 months, actually, we got it very fast because we applied in February after the law came in force, and we got it in 2 months. And yeah, so actually what is important for investors to know that investors' rights are protected, and what means to be regulated. For example, there are many things, but also the on borrower's side. So, for example, the law or regulation is the same for the bank, for the balance sheet lender, and for P2P platform. from the borrower perspective. So if you want to borrow the money, you will be protected equally. It's no matter do you get money from the bank or from neofinance. But this law also protect investors as well. So investors should can write the claim for the supervision institution. In our case, it's Lithuanian Central Bank, if they see that their rights was broken or was they was not treated equally to some other investors. And this is also the good point. All investors, by our law, should be treated equally. For example, we cannot give something more for one investor and to not to give to all other investors. Also, limited amount, and it's in the beginning. It was very interesting story. For example, in 2016, we had a cap for one investor's amount, not to invest into one loan, cap 500, but we had also the cap to invest only 5,000 euros in as the individual person.
Yeah.
And for legal entities was prohibited to invest into P2P consumer loans. So our, let's say, regulator was very, very, how to say, trying to protect investors too much. It was over-regulated. But time by time, everybody understood that P2P consumer lending platform is a good thing because it increases competition and similar things. So all this caps, all this over-regulated items was removed. So if I remember correct, 5,000 threshold was removed in 1 or 2 years after 2016. So I would say at the moment we have very balanced regulation, so to protect investors' rights, but also not to over-regulate that the platforms cannot expand, for example, or lend money or to accept investors. So now let's say it's evolved and we are at very good position when we can, as a platform, we can expand, we can grow our business, we can look for new investors, we can look for new borrowers, and from other side, investors' rights are quite good protected. So, and people, especially in Lithuania, they like to invest into regulated platforms because they always know that we are under supervision, and they can always claim to the central bank. And for example, if they have some doubts, are we acting good in a good manner, or we are, I don't know, hiding something? So they can always claim, and to get the answers, central bank will do some investigation regarding the question raised, or is it, in many cases, it's done by emails, or even we can, because our regulator is very flexible, we can even to meet and to consult. So I like it actually to be regulated.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, if you say that even the borrowers or the investors, they can raise complaints against the neofinance if they feel like there is something unlawful, because as we have seen last year, for instance, when platforms started to listing fake projects, you cannot complain to anyone basically. So that's obviously a huge benefit of being regulated, and I hope that more players get regulated in the future as well. You mentioned that Neofinance was able to obtain the license within 2 months. Can you maybe give us a few key points which you needed to fulfill in order to get the license and also to obtain it? Since I'm aware that in Latvia, a lot of the marketplaces, they need to raise the minimum equity. They need to, the regulators conducting AML checks on all the management and the loan originators. Do you have some kind of like key points that you need to fulfill as well?
You know, our case is different because let's say our main and most important license is electronic money institution license, and the requirements to keep electronic money institution license are much stricter comparing to the P2P consumer lending platform. So all AML checks, opening accounts, payments, minimum capital. For example, a very good example maybe to say is that, for example, minimum capital for electronic money institution is 350,000 euros. For P2P consumer lending platform, it's maybe 40,000 or something. I know exactly that for crowdfunding platform, minimum capital is 40,000 euros, and for electronic money institution is 350,000 euros. So AMLs, payments, all that things comes from electronic money license regulation. And let's say for P2P consumer lending platform regulation perspective, we have not so big list comparing to electronic money institution license. Yes, investors' rights to treat equally, to avoid conflict of interest, to describe everything in proper manner, to give these statistics and so on. Yes, but it's not the biggest part in our case. In our case, the major regulation and, let's say, compliance comes from electronic money institution law and license. So, and I have here, for example, four lists. What do we need to report for our institution? So, four lists, and to name everything, I think I'll need time, let's say half an hour to make the list, to announce the list of the reports we should provide to regulators, for example. But if to look, yes, the biggest part is for electronic money institutions. So I don't know, is it very important? What should we report for them?
Mm-hmm. So do you have those 4 pages? Is it available on your finance website as well, where investors can read through it and inform themselves about the requirements that you need to fulfill as well?
No, it's internal documentation. It's for our team members, not to forget what should be reported in what time period. And some reports goes every month, some reports goes every quarter, and some reports goes every year. But maybe it's a good idea because it's nothing to hide, and actually it's public information, so you can open the law or open the directions of central bank, the papers which describe more in detail requirements of the law, and you can look what should electronic money institution report to the supervision institution, and regarding other licenses, the same thing. I don't think it's very interesting for the investors, but if you have some questions, and I can name some reports if you would like to.
Mm-hmm. No, we got recently we are seeing some questions from the community asking, oh, where can I verify that a company is regulated, etc. So if let's say you claim you have the P2P lending license, is there like a public archive or a public website where investors can go and check actually the list of regulated companies?
Yes, and Lithuanian central banks, they are constantly teaching investors or some participants of financial markets, please, the first thing you need to check, please go to our website, enter the name of the company you want to give your money, and check please the licenses they have. If they don't have any licenses, be very careful, maybe avoid that kind of investments. Yes, so they have a list and everybody can go to lb.lt, for example, and to check whether some company have a license or not. And they have all the information in English as well. lb.lt. LB means Lithuanian Bank,
Yeah.
Bank, Lithuania.
Okay.
Bank of Lithuania, lb.lt.
And maybe at the end, one last question. If, for instance, a P2P lending company wants to start business in Lithuania, do they necessarily need to be regulated? Is it required by law?
Yes, so yes, and it's the reason why all Lithuanian P2P consumer lending platforms and crowdfunding platforms are regulated, because it's no other way to do business here. Actually, there's the same as in UK, as far as I know, because in UK you cannot, you can't also to start the business being not regulated.
That certainly gives a little bit more security for P2P investors, as I'm also aware a lot of the Baltic platforms, they're based either in Latvia or in Estonia, where the regulation is not as developed, let's say, as in Lithuania. So it's quite good to know that there cannot be any P2P lending platforms in a way offering the services in Lithuania without being regulated, right?
It can be, but it will be closed very soon. Very soon.
Okay, Evaldas, I appreciate a lot all your insights that you gave us and you provided to the community. I think it's quite important to also talk about the regulations and what are the benefits of regulated versus unregulated platforms. And I have a strong feeling that soon, or in a couple of months, or maybe even next year, a lot of the investors will not be really excited in investing on unregulated platforms, as I think that the risk of those investments will be quite high if there are going to be a lot of available options on regulated platforms. So I appreciate all your insights, and yeah, you can maybe let us know maybe one main reason why investors should invest in consumer loans from Lithuania with Neofinance.
First reason is that it's very safe. Talking about the all risks which may arise for the investors. It's safe regarding the storing the money, the investing, how the platform is regulated, what will happen if the platform would fail, and many things. All things are protected in our case. Second, of course, for investors, the investment return also is very important. Investors can expect to earn about 10-11% of actually return before taxes. One more reason maybe to diversify your investments to some different countries, and Lithuania could be the safe haven to invest and to diversify your portfolio, being very safe and regulated market, which has much less chances to fail and to lose your money.
All right, Evaldas, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best with Neofinance.
Thank you, Jakub, and good luck to everybody.